Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to an impromptu Xbox Factor podcast. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. And ladies and gentlemen, I had put out there that Mrs. Boom and I were going to take a nice 5 day block off. But of course, well, the gaming news never seems to stop or cease to amaze me. We have some unbelievable responses from Activision and Microsoft in response to the Lena Khan led FTC's lawsuit to try and stop the Activision Blizzard deal of $69 billion. It is quite spicy. I've been getting DMs all morning. Unfortunately, I didn't have a breakfast with Boom because, well, I had to do some things with Mrs. Boom, had to deliver gifts. I literally just got in. And for the last hour or so, I've been talking with both Kay Asante and Everborn Saga, and I was like, you know what? I gotta get in on the conversation. I just finished tuning into Hogue Law's impromptu live virtual legality. I'm gonna actually send him an invite. I don't know who is gonna be here, folks. It might be me, just me for 60 minutes, but I'm hoping we can get some guests in here to talk about what is going on. But ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome in. Wow, already 60 people here, and this is again, it's impromptu. I didn't do any advertising except for like maybe 3 minutes ago. Let people know I'm going live. It's only going to be for 60 minutes because I still have some personal things to do with Mrs. Boom in regards to getting ready for the holiday. But I could not miss this opportunity to talk about. Wow. I mean, Microsoft has had some big responses to this. Remember, they had 14 days to respond to the FTC's lawsuit. They did in kind, but for the most part, Activision Blizzard has been staying quiet, and they released a response that I thought was extremely spicy. And they threw around the words. Violating the US Constitution, which a lot of people believe the FTC are doing, which is why they're being sued as we speak by another company for abuse of authority. And I think that that company is going to win this lawsuit because the Supreme Court is listening to it and will have a vote on it uh in the spring. But let the people come in here and see if I can get a couple of guests in here. Again, I'm gonna live on the air. I'm gonna invite Hogue Law to see if he can get in here with us. Hopefully everyone is enjoying themselves, and you're having a safe holiday. Pardon me again, folks. This is very unlike Boom. I like to come to these shows prepared, and you can hear me typing away because I'm literally going to reach out to Rich right now to see if I can get him in here. So hold on just a second, folks, as I do that. So the invitation has been sent, ladies and gentlemen. Again, thank you for bearing with me for the unprofessionalism, if you will, because I like to come into these things very prepared. I like notes. I like to have the guests lined up, and it's just me. But listen, let's get into what the big deal is. If you're new to the channel, of course, I want to say welcome to the program. I have become a full-time streamer in the second half of 2022. I do stream 5 days a week, five different shows, five different panels, all great opinions. And of course, we never use hate or council war rhetoric to sell the brand. Everyone that knows me as being very positive, and I do give the righteous smoke to all of the platforms when it's necessary. Like I said, my favorite platform, if you're finding the channel for the first time, is Xbox. But I do it on PlayStation. I do play on my Switch pretty much every day, and I do not like what Sony has been doing in recent years, specifically with this generation. So I have been giving them the righteous smoke, as Kay Asante would say. But look, let's get into it as we wait for the guests to roll in here. As we know, Microsoft is trying to close one of the biggest deals in gaming history. It's 69, almost $70 billion deal with Activision Blizzard King. And we are currently in a waiting pattern, or a holding pattern, if you will, for what the EU Commission and the CMA are going to say. And of course, those are our brothers and sisters across the pond. and they're supposed to levy their verdict mid-January. But we have seen some things and some suggestions and some documents put out there by both entities that suggest that they are not only have listened to the public, and most people are saying that this deal is good for gaming. They are actually listening to Microsoft's peers. That's right. They're fine folks at EA and 2K Games and a few others of the big publishers have all said in unison that this deal is just another video game deal, and that it's going to be to the betterment of the industry. And of course, I couldn't agree more. Here is Web Dave coming in on the scene. Dave, what's going on, brother? Welcome to the program. But I didn't think we were going to have a podcast, but here we are.
Here we are. Hey, buddy, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm glad that you can join me. I know you're going to have a lot to say on the
Ooh.
Microsoft and Activision response to the Lena Khan-led lawsuit against Microsoft in regards to the acquisition. I have those notes in front of me, and quite frankly, I'm going to lead off, Dave, with the Activision response because it's quite spicy.
Oh, man, it is so good.
And it does put Lena Khan and the FTC on blast. It does point out their extremely short mindset or shortcomings, if you will, when it comes to what this deal is actually going to do for the industry, and how that their lawsuit in retrospect of it all is violating the constitutional law of this country. So let me pull that up right here. Now, folks, again, big shout out to Everborn Saga, who updated me with all of these different posts. I responded to some of them. Like I said, I didn't have much time this morning. I've been running since 7:30 this morning, but now I'm going to kind of cool my jets for 60 minutes to give you fine folks an extra show that we didn't know was coming. But here is Activision's direct response to the FTC, and I'm going to read it verbatim, folks. It says this: the FTC's disregard for the benefits of consumers and focus on supposed harms to Xbox deep-pocketed competitors betrays the fundamental disconnect between the FTC's theories and the antitrust law's underlying purpose, which is to protect competition, not competitors. The FTC is asking this court to protect the world's largest gaming companies from further competition from Xbox, and thereby turning antitrust on its head. Blinded by ideological skepticism of high-value technology deals and by complaints from competitors, the FTC has not only lost sight of the realities of the intensely competitive gaming industry, but also the guiding principle for our nation's antitrust laws. I think that really is three sentences or three paragraphs that really turn Lena Khan and the FTC on their head. Dave, this is a pretty big response from Activision, considering that they have been quiet for most of this. You haven't heard most. You've heard like letters from Bobby Kotick to the employees about, hey, we're going to get this deal done. Change is coming. And again, I take him and I throw him in the garbage. He's the reason why Activision's in trouble. But what are your personal responses to the at least part of Activision's response?
I think that I believe because I watched Hoglaw's interview that he already,
which was phenomenal. I was
Exactly.
literally listening live as he was going on. He literally, as someone that doesn't have any stake in the case, he
Yeah.
destroyed the FTC live on the air.
Absolutely. He's such a great channel, such a great asset to the community, and been a guest on here several times. He's amazing. But I tell you, he clearly said it that Microsoft, their response was going to be, was it family friendly, taking the high road kind of thing, putting their case out there, but still, being respectful and stuff. And then they basically had Activision unleash the beast, release the hounds, as it were. And oh my goodness, it was awesome to read. It's a great read. And what you talked about there, it clearly, like Hogue said, if he was the advising attorney, he wouldn't word it quite this way because he feels that he'd rather be a little more tempered and type thing. But but and that's what Microsoft was and their response. But Activision, being that they aren't, even though they're the party being consumed, they aren't the one that's in the crosshairs themselves, and they are able to say things in a way that Microsoft shouldn't. And it's great. It was absolutely, it's on the money. It's basically boom, almost everything and every angle that you think about this deal. You know what I mean? Clearly put out there with gloves off, kind of like, are you serious? Wake up. This is the way things really are. Don't let this Lena Khan fool you. And basically call them out on just about everything that they were, all the different arguments and just like that's not true, that's not working, that's not right, this is the way it really is. And it's great response, and I think that this is what's needed. I think it's from a gamer's standpoint, I want to see this side of it because you feel like, and you've said this before too, sometimes you feel like Microsoft is kind of you know playing the nice guy, feels trying to be the nice guy, but there's a reason for that, and I think that they should. But seeing that this side of it, the Activision's response, it's you and me probably are right there, like going, "Yeah, give it to him." Am I right?
Look, here's the thing, Dave.
Mhm.
Um, I have called out Microsoft for their shortcomings for many things: first party games, messaging, marketing. I have called Sony to the carpet with their anti competitive behavior. I have called Nintendo to the carpet many times. If this deal would have been considered illegal in some way, someone was going to get hurt on this deal, i.e., specifically, because again, I don't care so much about billion and trillion dollar companies. What I care about is the people in this community, myself being one of those peoples. I look at this deal as a big win for the little guy, right? The little guy meaning us. At the end of the day, folks, let's understand. I want this deal to go through and I want Microsoft to be ahead of this, but that's not who I'm rooting for. I'm rooting for the fact that Activision, Blizzard, and King are going to bring their games to a service that I currently pay for. And I gratefully pay $15 a month because for my financial situation, it checks all the boxes off, right? Some of my favorite games that I played in 2022 come out of Xbox Game Pass that normally I would have had to buy. And this year hasn't been the greatest year for me. It really hasn't. Everyone knows that my mom passed away. That was a cost, right? Besides being an emotional, burden, and it still is because now we're in the holidays. There's a financial aspect to it, right? Um, we just had to put the truck in for 2 weeks, and we had to rent a car for $600 on top of a $500 deductible. That sucks during the holidays, but such is life. So with all of these mishaps that I have had, I can still play games when I have the time to do so. And I can do that on a retired budget that doesn't put me over a barrel. And Sony, who's the biggest objector of this deal, besides the FTC themselves, want you and me and Dave and the 200 plus people we have here to continue paying $70, 76.43 here in New York with after tax, and potentially, and we've heard this on Sony even say this, games could go higher. They don't offer day and date, and they want you to keep paying. They're the market leader, so they have abused their leadership, and they have the backing of someone like Lena Khan, who has a political agenda. And her case, no matter who you talk to, there's been numerous legal excerpts, outside of Hogue Law. There's been tons and tons of people in the finance world that says this is a fool's errand. They don't even understand. She does not have a leg to stand on. And based on the response from Microsoft and based on the response that I just read from Activision, she's going to get eviscerated in court. And you know what the biggest problem is? I think that the problem that no one talks about is her boldness to say that we are just not going to talk about it. We're just going to sue, even if we're going to lose. And you see, it's that kind of reckless abandonment that says that she should not be in that chair, because it's not her money she's wasting, it's our money. Our millions and millions and millions of taxpayer dollars are going on to a frivolous lawsuit that has no merit and is completely based on taking a situation and dissecting it to fit her agenda. And you know what that's called? That is called illegal. That is called unconstitutional. And I think that once we get the voting, or the reviews from both the CMA and the EU Commission, they're going to say that there's nothing wrong with the deal. They're not harboring any, behind the scenes things. It's not going to hurt competition. Sony isn't going to die off tomorrow, and they're going to accept the concessions that put Call of Duty on PlayStation for a decade, but also put it into their streaming service, which is bonkers by any stretch of the truth. Dave, I do have some of those responses. And again, folks, this is a 21-page document.
Oh yeah.
Unlike a Hogue Law, I don't understand all of it, so I'm going to read you a couple of the excerpts from it. And Dave, as soon as we'll get into it, and then hopefully again we can get a
Mhm.
couple of people to jump in here. This is what it says. I don't know what page it is because it's cut out, but it's articles 17, 18, and 19 of Microsoft's response, their legally responsible response, which they had 14 days to do, or they forfeit the case to the FTC. Here's what Article 17 says. These proceedings are invalid because the structure of the commission as an independent agency that wields significant executive power and the associated constraints on removal of the commissioners and other commission officials violates Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution and its separation of powers. Here's what 18 had to say. These proceedings are invalid because adjudication of the commission's complaint by the ALJ and the commission violates Article 3 of the U.S. Constitution and the separation of powers. And this is where it gets really spicy, folks. Number 19 says the commission's procedures arbitrarily subject Microsoft to administrative proceedings rather than to proceedings before an Article 3 judge in violation of Microsoft's right to equal protection under the Fifth Amendment. These are massive claims. And this is a very detailed response. Like I said, I think ultimately, Dave, they may actually wind up backing out of this deal because, again, folks, right now the FTC has the high ground because we don't know what the CMA and the EU Commission are going to, are what they're going to say in January. If they are both for this merger, the FTC is basically is going down a a sinking ship. If they choose to try and block this deal, then this deal is ultimately dead. We did get a New York Times article, which we'll talk about in a second, where Microsoft has, again, this is coming from someone that invests in Microsoft, and I guess they have an inside ear to what they're saying, what Brad Smith, president of Microsoft, is saying. But apparently they're going to fight this. But Dave, what are your responses to what Microsoft had to say?
Well, I mean, they're clearly spitting out, their part of it. In other words, taking their stance and clearing their point of view. And I just the FTC does not have a leg to stand on, and they are clearly throwing everything at this, the kitchen sink, the any trope you can kind of come up with. That they're throwing it out there, trying to make it stick, and it's clear it's not going to. It's just it's so blatantly obvious, Boone, that it's they don't have a leg to stand. They don't care whether they have a leg to stand on. That's the thing that's, like you said, after this, she's been doing this for a while. That she just, if it's a big argument, they're gonna go for it. They don't really care. The whole Microsoft wanted to throw out concessions. They didn't want to hear about them. They didn't care. But that doesn't matter.
And you know something, at the end of the day, Dave, that in itself is an inherent problem.
Yep.
Because if you're saying that legally we can sit down as two adult entities
hmm
and have a conversation, and like a 2-year-old, you're going to stand in a corner with your arms crossed, stamping your feet, saying we're not having this talk.
hmm
My question to you is, should this person, and I'm talking about Lena Khan,
Right.
be the person in charge of the FTC? The answer is no, Dave. I'm
No.
sorry.
Right. It's clearly no. Yeah, she should definitely. But apparently she was appointed because she was going to be the pit bull, and that's basically what they brought in. They wanted somebody to try and make a stance and to make a point and to try and keep big companies what they consider in line. But when a big company is not doing anything wrong and is completely within their the guideline of the FTC's rules and regulations about purchases, even though it's a large purchase, and I understand they have to look at it, but when you come out and they look at it and they see that it's clearly consumer friendly and not antitrust, it absolutely, that's their only mandate. That is what they're there for, is to protect the consumer. And when this doesn't hurt the consumer, all they're doing is throwing up more smoke and more things to try and straws to grasp at. Hogue brought up a good point that the FTC is trying to, they have certain, I guess there's a, what word am I looking for? There's certain guidelines they have to go by, certain preview maybe that they have. This is what this is what they're able to do. Well, and they want to expand that preview. I can't even say the word right, man. I need to take some more cough medicine. But they are trying to expand, what they can do and get away with, and try and set new precedents. Basically, is what they're trying to do, so they can better control these large corporations. And this case is not one they should have tried to do. I think that this was, they've gone a bridge too far, as it were, and this one's just not going to work for them. And it's clearly, and Microsoft is, that's what they said. We're in this for the long haul. Now, whether that's true, but at least that's what they're saying out front now, is that they're in this for the long haul and they are going to get this job done. And from the response of Activision Blizzard King, they're for it too. They're not like, well, maybe we need to tone us down or go a different way. They're like, hell yeah, we're all in it too. So they want this deal to go through as well.
Yeah.
And and clearly the response from ABK, if for some reason this deal didn't go through, Sony will never get another game on their platform after this, after the way they've brutalized their friendship and their their
Well,
good faith.
that's a great point, and I kind of want to touch on that for a second
Mhm.
before we talk about what else was in this response from Microsoft, because there's a lot of juicy stuff here, and I'm sure, like I said, if you listen to Ho's video, which was his live stream, was amazing. I'm like halfway through it. As soon as I'm done with this, as I'm doing some stuff around the house, I'm gonna be listening to it. Um, the scorched earth tactics that Sony has, produced in this, crying to every regulator that would listen. You have to understand that they have burnt almost every bridge, and I know that there'll be some folks that will argue the fact that, well, they're the market leader and everyone's going to come back to Sony. The answer is, you are out of your mind if you think that's the case. There are a lot of people that may not say this publicly, and I have no investment in Sony or Microsoft or otherwise, so I can say whatever I want. People are there are listen. You hear things as much reading and DMing than I do, and I get. you hear from different things, you hear from different people. Some things are ridiculous, some things you have to take with a grain of salt. But there is one thing to say: people, meaning other industry members of the gaming community, are sick of Sony. They have bully like tactics. They charge their consumers and their partners for everything. And they don't want change. They don't want a game that is a AAA funded game like Starfield going into Xbox Game Pass. They don't like the fact that something like Call of Duty, that is costs millions and millions of dollars to make, could go into a service, even though Microsoft is offering it to their own service. Now, we don't know the schematics of that. Is it day and date? Is it 3 months later? Is it 60 days later? How much is Sony going to have to pay? Is it 100 million, 200 million, 300 million, 500 million to have this in their service? I don't know, but it's going to be a lot of money, because we did hear that for the marketing rights that they currently have, it was upwards of $300 million for the 5 years, the 5 year deal. So think about that. They spent $300 million on a 5 year deal to be able to market and put Call of Duty and PlayStation logos everywhere. And they do a good job at doing it. There's no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, if this deal goes through, Microsoft is going to be the one receiving the monies for such a deal, and they'll be able to put that Call of Duty stuff everywhere, on every Game Pass logo you could possibly imagine. Every console is going to say, Call of Duty included with your, with your streaming service monthly subscription, and it's going to fly off the shelf. That's why Sony doesn't want to do this. It's I don't know, Dave. I think that you made a really strong point that if anyone thinks Sony is going to be allowed back into the room or back into the club after not only making it difficult for this deal for Activision, who wants to sell, but they have ultimately now taken the industry that they're supposed to be a part of and put a magnifying glass on it for every publisher and developer in the entire industry. That's what they did. They turn around and they're complaining, said, now we're going to look into every deal. And that goes for their deals, Dave. Anything that they want to do is potentially going to be scrutinized. And I say, well, you made your bed, now you have to lie in it. But let me bring up some of the harsh language that comes the way of this document. And you know what? Let me see if he put in here. Okay, hold on a sec. Let me see if he put in here. I'm talking about I'm saying Everborn had put in here a bunch of stuff. I want to get some of the good stuff, because there's a couple of really, really strong quotes in here that I want to read. This is just a piece of it, folks. Like I said, this is an impromptu show. Normally, I am prepared. I have everything in front of me and ready to rock and roll. Boom. And I'm just trying to run with this, because I think this is a very interesting topic. I do see a bunch of super chats that have come in. I will get to them momentarily. But here's one of the excerpts from Microsoft's response. And they say this, folks: the FTC ignores the significant benefits of the transaction in favor of a warped attempt to ignore the facts and rewrite antitrust law and settled precedent to protect Xbox's competitors from hypothetical harm that has no basis in marketplace realities. They go on to say, adding Activision's consent to multi-game subscriptions and cloud gaming, where it would not have been available otherwise, is plainly output enhancing and gives gamers more options on how and where to engage with Activision's content. Activision, and particularly its King division, will also enable the acceleration of Xbox's nearly non-existent mobile gaming business, which would enhance competition in the fastest growing segment of gaming. And the transaction will ultimately expand the capital support and talent available to Activision's games development studios, driving further innovation in new games and technologies. And I think that is a big deal, especially when you look at what is going on currently in the EU and the UK, Dave. What is going on over there is Apple and Google have something which this wording comes the way of the British government, a duopoly, meaning that it's those two entities and no one else can get a leg in. Well, what this deal ultimately does, Dave, is give Microsoft the shoehorn that it needs to be a part of the mobile conversation. And I think that if you look at the letter of intent that was sent to the British government in February after this deal was originally announced on how they were going to have the first open-ended platform in that region, whereas at the time Google and Apple was closed. I mean, you couldn't even get Xbox Game Pass on there, traditionally through an app because Apple would not allow it. Google will not allow it, where a Microsoft run mobile division will be open ended. So if you want to pay using your credit card, you can. If you want to use Google Pay, you can. If you want to use Apple Pay, you can. But this is something that could potentially swing this deal in their direction. What are your thoughts on this excerpt?
Well, I think that it's clearly trying to open up the market part. Like just to let them see it's like it's not there's more angles to this than just what they're trying to put out there. And it's clear that Lena Khan and them are they're trying to be. They want to appear that their case is strong by focusing in on Microsoft and Sony, and that no other console, no other entity or program or whatever gaming market exist. And so that's the way I see it. They're trying to be really strong in that one point, and they're losing their argument. And Microsoft is clearly trying to spell that out for them. There was one thing that we talked about this before, that like Sony's not wanting to take the deal of the 10 years of stuff. The only thing Sony wants, the only thing, is that Sony wants there to not be Call of Duty on Game Pass. They want Game Pass to be ignored. Because they know that is what's going to hurt them more than anything. Is it once they're like, oh, we'll put it on our service. Sony doesn't want it on their service. They don't want that. They want $70 a game coming their way, and they want to be the dominant leader, selling the most copies of Call of Duty every single year, because that's where they make their most money. They make more money off Call of Duty than they do off their own first party titles, and that's documented proof.
Yep.
So that's but so the only way Sony will be happy is if they get a guarantee that Call of Duty will never be on Game Pass, and Microsoft is buying it. It's not going to happen.
That's not going to, and it shouldn't happen. Again, this what Sony is suggesting, folks, is unprecedented bullshit. Pardon my French. This is an adult show, so I threw my one curse in. Okay. I honestly, as someone who thinks rationally, I think most people that are subscribed to the channel will admit that I'm a rational, content creator. I do deal in facts. Yes, I get emotional like everyone else, but I don't let emotion take over the conversation ever. And this is one of those things that when you look at it on its sum of all of its parts, not pieces, you'd see what is unconstitutional about the FTC and what they're doing to sell this narrative to their administrative judge. There's a reason why they didn't want this in front of a federal judge. It is going to be laughed out of court.
Easily.
She does not have even a quarter of a leg to stand on, Dave.
Mm-mm. You're right.
But I have the complaint. I have the response from Microsoft in front of me.
Or ABK?
No, this is from Microsoft. This
Okay,
is this is directly from Microsoft Corporation, and
because the
well,
ABK one gets even spicier.
it absolutely does. But
Yeah,
I want to read
yeah,
the
yeah.
first. Yeah.
But go ahead, go ahead. That's
Oh,
what I'm
okay.
saying.
So
No,
let me
you go
let
ahead
me.
and say what you were saying. I'm sorry, I didn't mean
No,
to
that's
interrupt
quite
you.
all
I
right.
apologize.
Here's what the response from Microsoft is. Again, folks, if I'm boring you, please, you can get on out of here. But there's a lot to read. I'm going to read as much as I can within the next 25 minutes to get my point across that this is utter nonsense. And again, ultimately, when this goes in front of a federal judge, Lena Khan is going to lose again. This is what it says. The complaint and the misstatements of fact and misapplications of the law reflected therein do not pass muster. First, taking Call of Duty exclusive would be disastrous for Xbox. If Xbox withheld Call of Duty from Sony's PlayStation or other platforms that compete with Xbox, Xbox would immediately forego billions of dollars lost in sales and cleave off a massive portion of the gamers that Activision has worked so hard to attract and retain. Not only would Xbox lose players on those other platforms, but this strategy would also destroy the value of the game to Xbox owners. Call of Duty's appeal is in large part due to the investment that Activision has made to allow gamers to play at any time with anyone they choose, regardless of platform they or their friends use. Withholding or degrading Call of Duty on PlayStation would eliminate this ability to cross-play and destroy the broad Call of Duty community that drives the game's success. The player backlash from making Call of Duty franchise Xbox exclusive would also be devastating. It would destroy the trust Xbox has fostered with gamers, lending frustrated gamers to vote with their wallets and shift their attention away from Xbox offerings. In a world with nearly unlimited gaming alternatives, making Call of Duty exclusive is not a plausible outcome. Now, Dave, before I get to what they said, secondly, because like I said, there is a lot here, and I can't get to everything. I think that this speaks unbelievable truth. Now, listen, I know that there are a lot of people in this chat right now that have seen Sony's behavior. I mean, for crying out loud, we just learned, and this is no surprise to me, Dave, that Sony put into the Square Enix contracts that Xbox cannot get any of these games. It is literally written into the contract. It's an anti-Xbox part of the contract. Now, I don't know where and if Microsoft has done that in the past, maybe they did. But I know for right now, there's been a lot of question as to why don't we get Square Enix games and we only get some? Because Sony has in their contract an anti-Xbox um, clause that says games will be here, they will not be there. Now, they don't have an anti Nintendo, but Nintendo's hardware can't run some of the big games. So it's either going to be on PC or it's going to be a PlayStation or it's nothing, which is why we still don't have Final Fantasy VII. What are your thoughts on their opening salvo, if you will, of saying that if we took Call of Duty away from PlayStation, we would forego millions, potentially billions of dollars, and that doesn't make any financial sense at all.
That's because it doesn't. It's exactly clear cut, straightforward. The truth that they don't seem to want to listen. They're conceding that, look, why would we do that? It makes no sense financially or our reputation to take it away from these other platforms. And we've said we're going to do it. First, we said we're going to do it for 3 years. Then we offered 5. Now we're offering 10. And we even said if you want it on your own streaming service, we'll do that too, because they want to make it clear that that's not what they're going to do. Now, when the end of the the 10 years is up, will they have to sit down with Microsoft and negotiate?
Yeah.
Sure. Why not? All these other groups do, everybody else does, but that doesn't mean that that's why the Call of Duty now is only till 2024. Do they have a deal for exclusivity with certain things on the downloads, the expansions, the extra content, have it on here first kind of stuff with Sony now. And then once that deal is up, if in theory they would sit down with Sony again and be like, okay, cool. Well, here's what we want if you want to do another one of those extension deals or all, and that's the way it's always been.
Yep.
So to offer 10 years out clearly means that they're willing to go above and beyond the normal constraints on any company, to get the deal through. But again, the big thing is on, like you said, and it's exactly what they're supposed to be calling out. But Sony will never agree to that until it's too late, until the deal goes through and they have no other choice. But they will never say up front, okay, we'll do that, unless there is a clear clause in there saying that, just like on these other, like the deals with Square Enix, if you say that you'll never put Call of Duty on Game Pass, then okay, we'll do it.
Yeah, well, good luck with that, Jim Ryan.
But that's the thing. That's probably the only way they would do that, as far as to agree to it before the deal gets done, because we know that this deal's going to get done. And
what's crazy interesting here, Dave, which I find to be, again, we don't know the specifics of what Microsoft offered them. We know that they did offer 10 years. We know for a fact that it was offered into their streaming service. Now, what we don't know is whether or not that is day and date, whether that is 3 months, 6 months, or a year after the game comes out. So we don't know the specifics, right? I'm sure that we will find out eventually. But what's interesting and literally hilarious is that here's Dreadpool. Hey, Dread, what's up, brother? Welcome to the program. Thank you so much for popping in. Oh, we got Fuzzy Belvedere here too. Wow, look at this. We are. This is the Breakfast with Boom on the Xbox Factor podcast, gentlemen. We will get to you momentarily. Thank you so much for popping in here.
Boom, I'm going to be here, but I'm going to step away just for a moment.
Go do your thing, brother.
My daughter needs me to start her car for her, so I'm going to go do that real quick.
Family first.
Like five below. I'll be right back.
Yeah, well, be careful, brother. We'll see you in a few minutes. Dreadpool, welcome back, brother.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks so much for popping in here. Again, this is an impromptu. I know we've been going back and forth all morning with the DM, and I felt it almost necessary to pop in here. We have 350 people here for an impromptu podcast that wasn't advertised literally, but for 2 minutes before the show went live. So a big shout out to everyone, and welcome if you're coming in on from the Hogue Lore, where that guy had like almost 2,000 people in his chat. I mean, who could not love the success of Hogue Lore and what he's doing all over and virtual legality? He always brings it 100. I was literally, as I was delivering gifts to family members, listening to the whole show, and I was like, man, if I don't get in here and speak about this until Tuesday, I'm gonna go crazy. So thanks so much for being here, Dread and Fuzzy. Thanks so much for jumping in, brother. How you feeling?
Not too bad. Hopefully my internet holds up, because it's been extremely windy here.
It's bad over here. Yeah, it's the winds, or we get a 40-mile-an-hour winds here with no snow yet. I don't think we're going to get any, maybe on the back end. I'm very disappointed, but that's here nor there. What I was going to say, guys, is, and we'll get to your opinion on the response from both Microsoft and Activision, and I'll reread that so I can get you guys' opinion, is what I was saying before you guys popped on is, one of the things I find hilarious about this deal is Sony currently will not offer any of their own first-party games day and date, and yet there's a possibility that there is a possibility. Yes, of course, packages are being delivered as I'm doing my spiel. There is a possibility that Call of Duty could have been offered day and date. Into their PlayStation Plus. I don't know what it is, but it is crazy that they could get a third party a day and date, and they won't even offer their own. But listen, guys, while I have you here, and while of course the internet holds up, I want to read for you. And I read this earlier, folks. So if you're just tuning in and I'm reading verbatim, I apologize, but I got to bring Dreadpool and Fuzzy up to speed. this was the response, or one of many responses from Activision. As a matter of fact, you know what? Hold on a second here. Hold on. I actually have The Verge, which, of course, if you don't know who TheVerge.com is, you should. They're a good website. This was written. Who wrote this? It was Mitchell Clark, regarding the Microsoft response to the FTC's Activision Blizzard lawsuit. And here, this is the response from in a statement to The Verge. Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick argued that the deal to go through, saying this, folks. There is no sensible or legitimate reason for our transaction to be prevented from closing. Our industry has an enormous competition and few barriers to entry. We have seen more devices than ever before, enabling players of a wide range of choices to play games. Engines and tools are freely available to developers large and small. The breadth of distribution options for games has never been more widespread. We believe we will prevail on the merits of this case. And this is a response, guys, from Brad Smith, president of Microsoft. He says this, and this is a great response, and I want to get your guys' opinion on this. He says, even with confidence in our case, which they have literally an ironclad case, we remain committed to creative solutions with regulators that will protect competition, consumers, and workers in the tech sector. As we've learned from our lawsuits in the past, the door never closes on the opportunity to find an agreement that can benefit everyone. I think that is a phenomenal and well-written statement. Dreadpool, let's get your opinion on this. Obviously, this is breaking news. This has been running rampant all this morning. Microsoft had no choice legally to respond within 14 days, and here we are. Have you had a chance to look at some of their response, and what are your thoughts on them?
It's just funny how a lot of it's common sense that they've been thrown back at them, and I kind of skimmed over everything, because when I saw it last night and I sent it over, I didn't realize that the link didn't go over, and I just skimmed it, and then I saw it again, and it's funny how, it's now it's literally gloves off. I mean, they are coming
100%.
back.
Yep.
And it's about damn time. You know what I mean? It's just, it's been nerve-wracking watching all this happening this whole time, and it's like, come on, do something, say something. The community's been giving them all this ammunition, and seeing all this, it's great to see that they've pretty much, from what I could tell, pretty much every little issue, they've come back with proof and proof in the pudding, that everything is on the up and up on their side, and it's good for gaming. And it just makes no sense that they would sit there and try to contradict what they're there for. They're there to protect the community, the people, not, another company. So
yeah, it's pretty interesting when they, when you read the document, Dredd, and they specifically say that where it appears, folks, that the FTC is protecting Sony. Ultimately, that's what it is. But you know what I find to be really interesting here is the way the FTC, Dredd, has dissected the gaming as a whole. Right? They what they try to do to fit an agenda that's led by Lena Khan. Let's call a spade a spade. She is the chairwoman. She is running the FTC. This lawsuit, this frivolous lawsuit, is on her word under her watch. And we have heard that she would rather go to litigation than try and come up with a solution. Now, if you're slamming the door of a conversation before it even starts, that's a prerequisite of a judgment. And that to me seems it's unconstitutional. You're not even allowing me through the door, Dredd, to give you, hey, Dredd, listen, I got it. Listen, I know that you don't like this deal. What can I do, Dredd, to get this deal done? Here's what I'm willing to do. Is it acceptable? And and Dredd is like, no, I don't even want to hear it. It doesn't matter. That's unconstitutional.
She's playing judge and jury right off the bat.
Indeed, she is. Yeah.
And there is no no talks, and that's the funny part is there is no, hey, let's work this out and see if we can come to an agreement on something. That's um the whole thing is, it's just been, this is what's going to happen and you're going to take it or like it. It doesn't matter. I don't care. And this is how it is. It's her way or the highway.
Yep.
And it does not make any sense. Like I said, they're not protecting us. She's just doing whatever she wants. We've already talked about this being a political thing on her side. It's also her back's up against the wall because, she's got to make a point and prove something to somebody for whatever reason, even if it's herself. But it seems like she has to make a point to prove that she can do this. And at the same time, they're skirting around the laws. They don't have this kind of authority, and yet they're saying they do. There's a lot of it that just still mind-boggling, perplexing as to how they're getting away with it. And I'm glad that Sam.
Say Brad Sams. Everyone
Brad
says Brad,
Sam,
Brad
yeah.
Smith. Yeah.
Yeah, Brad Smith. It's hard when you watch Brad Sams. He's so good with what he does, and then you get somebody else in there, and you're like, well, wait a second. But Brad Smith, it's good to see them coming back with like I said, hard facts. Here's the information, and they're pissed. You could tell they're pissed. Phil's still, with a kumbaya smile, which is fine, because remember, speak softly, but carry a big stick.
Very big stick, yeah, indeed. You know what? At this point, Dread, though, it's now the lawyers are speaking. Phil tried to do everything he can. He's out there handshaking and kissing babies and stuff like that. And legitimately, like I said, I can tell you that I've met Phil, and he is, folks, he is as real as they come. He is an absolute gentleman. You literally, as if we're having a conversation right now, that's the kind of conversation I had with him. We talked and like to another gamer, not the head of Microsoft Gaming. I can assure you that. Listen, is he a harsh businessman behind the scenes? You absolutely better believe that he is. But to speak to him, and when he's saying he's out there looking out for the best interests of the gamers, I'm here to tell you that is not a core. That's he's not playing coy. He is being legitimately concerned for the gamers around the world, not just Xbox gamers. But please continue.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just like I said, I've only skimmed over it, a lot of it, when I sent it out to you guys.
It's a very long document, and there's
a lot there.
Yeah, there really. I mean, again, shout out to Hoglaw who breaks these things down so perfectly. It's too much to cover in a 60-minute show, which we're going to go over a little bit anyway, because obviously we originally thought it was going to be me and Dave, and Dreadpool and Fuzzy Belvedere swept in and are lending support. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for that. We'll come back to you in a second, Drex. I have another question I want you to, because you obviously are in the know when it comes to these big business moves, because you've been a part of some of these big transactions for your own personal company that you work for. So we're going to get into it. But Fuzzy, before I bring you in, brother, let me catch up on the super chat. There's been quite a few of them. Highlander 001 drops the first very generous super chat of the day of $5. Says, Merry Christmas. Activision chose violence. They came to kick ass, and Microsoft is playing the nice guy. Yeah, indeed. And eventually Microsoft is going to show you their fangs. And I think that they have with this response to the FTC's lawsuit. Drawn TJ drops $2 super chat and says, hi guys, what's up? And Merry Christmas to you. Thank you so much for that, brother. Definitely appreciate the generosity, but of course, Merry Christmas to you. God Emperor Sofa King, welcome back, brother. He's been a channel member for a month, and he says this: if Activision was a rapper, they just dropped the most fire diss track on the FTC on every spicy indeed. Dropped it onto the FTC, very spicy indeed. Yes, it was. Like I said, I think ultimately, and I'm going to get to Fuzzy in a second, I think that this is a weak source case. Lena Khan has been told this by, I mean, we've heard people, former chairs of the FTC, literally say that this is a fool's errand that she is on. And when you have your peers saying this, I'm sorry, you got to wonder what's going on over there, because like I said, she's running the ship, and it's under her word and her authority that they're doing this lawsuit. It is a waste of millions of taxpayer dollars. I hope ultimately that if the CMA and the EU pass this, she backs down. I think she's going to literally be told to be back down. But again, we will see that as that happens in mid-January. Drawn TJ drops an additional $10 super chat and says, to be honest, I want Sony to be bought by Apple or someone and fire the old stubborn CEO and CFO so they can be pro-consumer. Plus, there would be more competition. Sony's way of doing business is old. Yeah, I absolutely believe it is an old way of doing business. Kia Walker, who's been a channel member for 1 year. Thanks so much for that, brother. He drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, happy holidays. Dead Planet drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, Okayami Games saying Redfall out May. Ouch. Yeah, that I don't know who Okamaya Games are. I don't know if they're a big website or not, but May, I don't know if I like that date. I'm going to be honest with you. That's too far. But Fuzzy, one of the things that I think immediately scream this case is lost before it even started is the fact that Lena Khan and the FTC's document suggests that this market is somehow split, meaning that something like a Nintendo Switch has no relevance to the conversation, which we all know is bullshit. The Switch just passed PlayStation 4 all-time numbers for the PlayStation 4. They are currently one of the biggest market leaders when it comes to console sales, but their games, when they release a game, right now have the highest one-to-one than any publisher in gaming, meaning that if a game drops like Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, Tears of the Kingdom, when that drops, there's a good chance that there's 60 or 70, maybe even 80% of the populace that own a Switch will buy the game. I mean, for crying out loud, when the Switch launched in 2017, there were more copies of the game sold than there were consoles. So their one-to-one is unlike anybody's. Like I said, they are the Disney of gaming, in my opinion. For Lena Khan and the FTC to suggest that they use the wording high-powered consoles as to dissect, to cut up the industry as a whole to fit their narrative. Again, that is considered illegal. What are your thoughts on Microsoft's response that clearly dictates them trying to paint this narrative to fit their agenda is unconstitutional?
Oh, well, Microsoft is right on point when it comes to that, because the FTC has to basically look at the entire, I guess you could say, commercial or customer base of this. I can't even think of the word right now, but as far as for this particular industry, they have to look at the consumers and look at all of the players as far as within that realm of competition. To exclude or to cherry pick this argument that Nintendo, because it's not a high, quote unquote, high powered console, is going to backfire on them. And Microsoft is pointing out how that the one player that you want to narrow it down to is also doing all of the things that you said that you don't want us to do, as far as taking things exclusive or playing keep away on consoles, which they finally brought attention to, like the Final Fantasy 7 and Final Fantasy 16 and a few other titles that Sony is purposely paying to keep off of their hardware. It's funny how it's taken this deal pretty much getting not really to the finish line, but because this stall tactic is going to basically put them in a bind. Now they're making mention of all the things that their fan base have been like, why don't you call Sony out on this or call out the FTC on this? And they're finally moving that needle forward. And it's great to see that they, at least even before this gets to a courtroom or before it gets to like one of the administrative judges within the FTC. It's nice to see that they're giving pushback to counter all of the points that the FTC made, and the whole deal to make this essentially a judgment without even allowing the parties to come to the table, without even hearing any of the compromises or alternatives or options, goes to show that the consumer is not even in this equation. Like, if you're going to take a company that you're afraid is going to harm competition in this particular industry, you at least want them to come to the table to hear them out, to point out, hey, no, we think you're going to gouge customers on pricing, or you're going to purposely make it harder for customers to obtain certain games or things along those lines. But to not even allow them to speak at the table goes to show that, like, pretty much like Dreadpool was saying, they've already got their minds made up to the point where they're playing judge and jury on this. But it just seems like Lena Khan is I can understand the ambition that she has and what she's trying to do, but if the laws that are going to be enforced don't back your argument at this current time, and litigation isn't on the table to make said changes, why waste taxpayer dollars and time fighting a case that's not going to get the desired result that this action is calling for? Basically, you're showing that, oh, you're going to set up a roadblock, waste taxpayer dollars, and then when they bulldoze that roadblock, then who's going to be left holding the bill? The taxpayers. And we'll have another loss, or the FTC itself will have another loss. And it just seems like in any other profession, that would be like grounds for dismissal. That would be grounds for changing the guard, let's say, as far as who's in those positions. So it just seems funny to me that this has even gotten this far. But I'm glad to see that Brad Sams is stepping up. I mean, he's been saying some spicy retorts back as far as to the CMA and the FTC all along, but now that they're have this delay tactic, pushing it to August when they're supposed to get this thing wrapped up in June, I can see that the fire is under them to push the needle and do this pushback to hopefully get some judges to pay attention. But like, hey, why is the FTC playing this stall tactic on a task that's not even constitutional in the sense of what's on the law books right now? So we'll see how it pans out. But I'm glad to see that they're fighting back. Even if it's in the public space, which typically you want them to do that behind court doors. But if the court doors aren't even open yet, by all means, bring it into the public space, which even the CMA sent out that I guess you could say kind of like a survey.
It was
or
you're talking
like
about the
that.
2100 responses to their inquiry, where they cited that more than 3/4 of the people that responded that they added to the evidence of their findings were for this deal.
Yeah. I mean, to have that much of basically 75% favorable is probably better than anticipated, because I figured it was going to be closer to a 50-50, considering that the EU or that region is more of a PlayStation home front, just because of the marketing and the push that Sony's been doing over the years. But to get a 75% response that, hey, this deal is fine, it's not going to cause any problems, and I'm pretty sure the other 25% are like the diehard PlayStation fans that are like, no, don't take Call of Duty away, even though it's not going to be taken away. It just seems like all of these roadblocks are unwarranted, and hopefully everything pans out between now and June and they get their day in court here soon.
Ultimately, folks, this is what I would call an abuse of power. They know that they have they have the law on their side in regards to gumming up the works, or the engine, if you will, and they're being sued literally right now, and the Supreme Court is is going to hear a case and potentially rule against the FTC for these kinds of illegal, anti-consumer, anti-competitive, unconstitutional tactics that they are wielding. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, look, at the end of the day, I wanted to jump on here for an hour because I thought that there was a lot to get into. I still have a lot of things to do to get ready for the holiday. I wish I could spend another 2 hours with everyone here, but I do want to close out with just to give you guys the heads up of what we were talking about in regards for what the FTC is doing, by dissecting everything. Now, this is part of the responses, and Microsoft says third, the FTC's made for litigation markets defy economic reality. The FTC has invited highly gerrymandered relevant product markets, including a high-performance console market limited to Xbox and PlayStation consoles, as well as individual markets for multi-game subscriptions and cloud gaming in an attempt to support its conclusionary theories of harm. But even a cursory view of the well-established facts demonstrates that these markets are entirely artificial. For example, the concept of high-performance console market that excludes the Nintendo Switch is potentially ridiculous. Nintendo competes directly with PlayStation and Xbox, offering many of the same games and targeting the same gamer demographics. Guys, on closing of today's very impromptu response to our conversation in response to what Microsoft had to say, and I'll go to Dreadpool first on this. Dreadpool, how is it that the FTC illegally, in my opinion, can turn around and dissect an entire market and simply say because it's not of the same ilk and hardware that it's any less relevant, considering that the Nintendo Switch is Nintendo's current gen console?
Well, let's see. We have PC, which you can play games on a potato. That doesn't count, even though you can get a 4090 now and still play at the greatest of everything. But that doesn't count, right? It's only Xbox and Xbox console, right? And PlayStation console. So that's quite odd. Now you have, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's fine.
It's late enough.
It certainly is.
I just did an unboxing, right? It was the horrible green screen unboxing that everybody loved that I'm still cringing about, but that's what we do. The Atari Genesis, or the Atari Genesis, I'm looking at a Genesis right here. The Atari VCS.
Yes.
Right? That's a capable unit. They just released the Atari 50 across all platforms and on that console. Oh, by the way, you can sideload Windows on that. Oh, by the way, that's not just a niche market. I mean, gaming is a niche market. So this is a niche within a niche, and yet you got the Nintendo Switch with the NVIDIA Shield, which they are finally doing away with the access of certain things with streaming on that. But the NVIDIA Shield is basically a Nintendo Switch. We've known that. Oh, wait, what about Game Pass and cloud gaming? Are they not part of the console war? Are they not part of this whole thing? It's funny how you leave certain things out, but Sony has a bigger population in their streaming services without any first party major games hitting day and date, if at all, in the system, because they only last 2 to 3 months, and then they pull them out. But Xbox is still half of that and growing, and they have their first party stuff in there. Oh wait, let's pick and choose what we want. It sounds like one of those Excel files that you opt in certain numbers and opt out certain numbers to make your numbers look good. I don't know. It sounds like an ethical question. Yet again, deceptive practices. Is she a Sony fan? Is she going to say, this is not going to happen to my Sony, to my PlayStation? This is what it seems like. Does it not?
It
there's
does.
a lot of questions.
Yeah. There's a lot of ethical questions. I'm glad you brought up the word ethics, because it seems like it seems to be removed from the FTC's conversation. And again, ultimately, that's why the wording of unconstitutional comes into play, and they start citing different articles and different amendments of the U.S. Constitution, and Lena Khan and the FTC are violating those, and they will be destroyed, or I like to say, eviscerated in court. I mean, good stuff as always, Dread. What can I say? Thanks so much for being here. Real quick, before we get Dave in and get Fuzzy's final point, Everborn Saga, thanks so much for popping in here. What is it that you'd like to add to this conversation?
Yeah, I know you guys are wrapping up, and I had like a couple of minutes before my next meeting, so I just wanted to come in and make a point that I was making a little bit earlier. So one point of clarification, the last quote that you spoke about with the patently ridiculous and talking about those markets, that's actually a quote from Activision, because there are two separate responses.
Thank you.
Both are around 30. Microsoft is 37. Activision is 35. They basically employed a good cop, bad cop tactic. So all the fiery language, like the strongly worded fiery language, where it basically calls the FTC stupid, corrupt, and or inept, that is coming from Activision.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Because Microsoft is trying to position themselves to say, listen, those guys are crazy, right? Those are my attack dogs. But listen, we can still work something out, right? So even though you're wrong, and even though we think we'll destroy you in court, we're still open to come to the table and talk about these things, right? So the way that Activision is talking is to let you know how this could go, and the way Microsoft is speaking in their response is how they want it to go. Like, we can do this the easy way, we can do this the hard way, right?
Nice.
And those are the two comments. Now, what I want but that's the clarification I wanted to make in case anyone was wondering. But the I don't know if you guys brought this up, right? But both Activision and Microsoft's response directly kind of called into question the constitutionality of what they were doing, and that's specifically in reference to that Axon Enterprises versus FTC case that the Supreme Court is hearing right now. And I think they're letting them know, listen, if they win, you already know what we're going to do, so let's come to the table, let's negotiate. Now, the last thing I want to say is I love the firebrand that is Activision and the way that they have been approaching this stuff. Now, what interests me is, once this deal is all closed and said and done, right? Does Microsoft adopt that cowboy approach that Activision has in terms of competition and telling it like it is and going straight for the jugular? Or do they continue
I don't know if they
Mr. Nice
have
Guy?
to. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean,
I'm just saying in terms of competition afterwards with Sony and things like that.
Well, look, at the end of the day, I will say this: Sony, this again, I said in the beginning of the opening of the show, this scorched earth a tactic is ultimately going to hurt them in regards to relationships with other people within the industry. And I used one of your wording. You said people are tired of the bully running the schoolyard, and that's Sony. People want to change, and when that change does happen, Sony's going to be on the outs. And the Xbox that used to be the skinny kid that everyone picked last that's no longer going to be the case. He's gonna have gone to the gym, worked out for 6 months, got cocky, and is now running the yard.
I just want to see this level of aggression that the wording and the talk that's coming from Activision. I want to see that coming from Microsoft Gaming when this is over.
And maybe it will.
It's all said and done.
Yeah, maybe it
That's
will.
it. That's the only point I wanted to make.
Well, thanks so much for popping by, brother. Definitely appreciate it. Love your hot takes. And Kay Asante says he's wondering if whether or not you wrote this opinion, because he said that you were him and I were just literally talking about this. He says, I think that this was written by Everborn Saga. He's just not taking the credit. But yeah, thanks so much for being here, brother.
There are certain NDAs that have to be signed.
All right, bro. Dave, let's get your final point on this. Obviously, Everborn has some really interesting things to say. I'm glad he clarified
so glad he came
who is doing the spicy talk. And do you agree with the good cop, bad cop tactic that they're apparently using right now? But do you want to see Microsoft become more fiery?
Well, I do agree with the tactic they're using now. and I think there is a clear reason why they're doing that, is because Microsoft needs to stay at this point into the good cop or good guy persona. They need to stay that way until the deal is either closer to being done or done. Now, and the ability that Microsoft has is to be able to pull their trump card, which is Activision, who is going to be the company that they purchase, and to be able, because they don't have the constraints on them, and they're allowed to cause a fuss, raise some ruckus, get be a little more blunt and open. And I think it's a smart move, even though we do want to hear from Microsoft. I'm not so sure that Microsoft and Activision haven't sit down and said, look, here's how we're going to approach this. Here's how we want you to approach this.
Yeah.
And they are legally able to do that, because this isn't about gaming or the corp or the, as far as anything to do with their, the operations of their company. This is strictly a, the lawsuit
they're
type thing.
co-defendants, right?
Exactly.
And they're both named on the lawsuit.
So they're able to converse.
Yeah, and their responses, there's a reason that they're so close in page number. They're both organized and structured in the same way. That's why it's very easy to confuse or conflate the two. But it's two different responses, and one is the carrot and one is the stick.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, which one do you want?
We love the stick. I know you love the stick too.
Pause. But yes,
beat them down. You stop that, you brute. But anyway, pause. Oh Lord, have mercy. Oh goodness. But no, man, it's clearly the best approach for this situation. When it's all said and done, when we're sitting down around the table listening to Phil and all the teams from Activision, Blizzard, and King, like they've done in the past with Bethesda, when we have that meeting, then maybe he can say, a little more, or maybe, but even then, I think Phil, has his reputation and is, a good guy, and wants to maintain his, the virtue or the, his standing as the, as the good guy in gaming, and wants to do more for everything. I think he's going to probably still be, very concise with his wording. But in the long run, the deal's going to get done, and it's just a timetable kicking down, count it down, baby, count it down.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Gaz, who is representing the PlayStation brand as always. He's been doing for years. He says PlayStation forever. Gaz, good on you, brother. Show those blue colors. Show show your flag. We appreciate you and love you.
I need Gaz in the next Pony Master 420 video.
We definitely need Gaz to be. We need Gaz to show up to challenge Pony Master 420 for the title of King Pony. That's what I want to see happen. I want to see him and Mag go at it in a fisticuff, battle royale style, maybe even in a cage, rage in the cage for PlayStation dominance. That would be awesome. Listen, let's get Fuzzy's last opinion, and we'll get everyone out of here. Fuzzy, everyone had some great things to close out the show with. What are your response to Microsoft and both Activision's good cop, bad cop situation? Obviously, thanks to everyone's clarification, it is Activision being very fiery, as Microsoft is being, the good guy that we know that they are. But at the end of the day, they both want this deal to go through.
True. I hope, just like what everyone was saying, that Microsoft at some point does adopt a lot more of the spit and vinegar that Activision has as far as their approach on competition, because I think the nice guy attitude is gotten them a long way, and it's definitely helped, but it hasn't removed the cloud that Bill Gates brought on from the 80s and 90s and early 2000s type of thing. So I think that's still something that they're going to have to overcome. But the good cop, bad cop approach, I think, works and will probably at least keep Microsoft above the fray, because at the end of the day, they're going to be the main face that are going to be selling the consoles and the games. That they don't want to have any of the possible fan base on the other side, holding a grudge, let's just say. If Activision is going to be the attack dog in this fight, I would say for the most part, if people have a grudge against Activision, then that just means a handful of games and possibly not the whole, Xbox brand. But if they have a grudge against Microsoft, it's definitely more of an uphill battle as far as, crossing mainstream as far as for the, expanding the fan base from the other side. But it's great to see that they're both working in unison because they both will benefit from this deal. It's in their best interest to continue to fight. But I just hope everything gets wrapped up here between now and E3. That would be the ultimate deal. But
the FTC could still come to the table.
Yeah,
right.
Indeed,
and I think that's the reason for the tactic. If you completely wholeheartedly go against them the way they could, the way the Activision is, and they're both doing that, you're basically cutting off all windows for negotiation. So they're still trying to be diplomatic while letting them know we will destroy you in court, or we think we will.
Yeah, you still have to have that nice guy image, because once you are perceived the villain, that's it.
Yeah, then it's hard to get out of that stigma for sure. But listen, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for your impromptu Xbox Factor podcast. Big shout out to Web Dave, Dreadpool, Fuzzy, and Everborn Saga for jumping in for what's going to be 90-minute show when we're done. Hopefully you enjoy. You enjoyed this podcast. Of course, before we get on out of here, Mrs. Boomstick and I want to offer everyone our our blessings for your holiday, regardless of what holiday you support, you celebrate with your family. Do it safely. Don't drink and drive. Again, I got to put on the popo hat because a lot of people drink and drive during the holidays, and that's how you ruin families. So don't do that. Of course, next week we're going to close out the year with 3 consecutive live streams: Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And I'm looking forward to closing out the year on the Thursday show because it's going to be packed with a lot of folks running in and out because we're doing our end of year 2022 in review podcast, and I'm trying to get as many people that I can get to join. And let's get to the outros and get everyone out of here. Web Dave, thank you. You were the first one to join me. I appreciate it very much. Sell your brand, brother. What you got going on, and who are you interviewing next? Where they can subscribe to your YouTube channel or reach out to you on social media.
Well, Boom, thank you so much for having me on here. Me and Fuzzy had a bet. We knew you couldn't keep away from your crew.
Yeah, it was gnawing at me the whole time I was in the car. I knew it.
I'm just playing. No, seriously, thank you so much for inviting us and for doing this improv, man. We love it. We're always here for you, man. You know that. And
appreciate it.
Merry Christmas to everybody, to you and your family, to everybody on the panel. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. In your viewpoints are always appreciated and always respect, man. It's such a great time to talk to you. Thank you again for being here. Dreadpool, Fuzzy, everybody in the chat. Gaz, I love you, man. You are the awesome crazy sauce, man, and I love you. So anyway, last thing I gotta say is lots of great interviews up, more coming. It's not about self-promotion today it's about be safe with your families. Yep. Have a great time, and we'll see you next week.
Yes, absolutely, brother. And real quick, Robo 2024, who's been a member for 2 months, says Merry Christmas and Xboxes for all. Bring on 2023. Thanks so much for that, brother. Definitely appreciate it. Dreadpool, sell your brand, brother. Talk about where people can reach out to you on social media, but more importantly, check out your incredible content.
Yes, from ARF Breakfast with Boom family to yours. I hope you guys love this because it just fit.
That's sorry, good. That's perfect.
I'm sorry, Fuzzy. I had to make you the mom, but I'm the daughter. So it's just that smile was like perfect. But anyway, yes, Linktree, YouTube, Twitter, Dreadpool. Look, it's either O's or zeros, depending on which one you're on. Twitter's zeros for now, but everything's typically going to be O's. Game Beyond the Box on Sundays. Here, I'm glad we still ended up having a breakfast with Boom, even though it was midday. Maybe we'll call it brunch.
More like brunch. Yeah, exactly.
So, but yes, as always, if and I'm sure I speak for everybody. If you need someone to lean on, our DMs are open. You can just speak to us. We'll listen. We can't really give you any advice, but at least we'll, a stranger will listen to you and maybe hopefully take some of that load off your chest.
Yeah, good stuff,
So,
brother. Yeah, that's great.
always.
That's a great way to
Pause.
close it out.
Yeah.
Because this time
Somebody
of
had
year.
to say it.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely this time of year is tough for some folks. And sometimes, the stress of the holidays, for whatever reason it may be, whether it be financial, whether it be mental health related, sometimes you just need someone to talk to, someone that's outside of your family circle. And if you are someone that's struggling, there's help, folks. There is help. And our DMs are open. We are not doctors. We cannot tell you where to go, other than instruct you where to go to help. But if you're looking to someone to talk to, reach out. Do not be afraid to say that you are having some difficulty with a particular situation, because sometimes all you need is a good ear. But thanks so much for that. Fuzzy, sell your brand, brother. Talk about where they can find the best information for racing in and on YouTube, and where can people reach out to you on social media.
Oh, just want to thank you for having me on, and thank you for everyone that watched us and listened to us for this impromptu podcast. And everybody, I hope you have a safe and happy holiday, whichever holiday you may celebrate. Please be safe and enjoy time with friends and family while you can. For anybody that wants to just hear any of my rambles on anything gaming related, just follow me on social media, mostly Twitter at fuzzy_Belvedere. You can find me probably on Fun Speculation doing a game stream. Not sure on the game, but check out Fun Speculation at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight. And then we'll be right back here next week. Boom, are we doing Xbox lunch break special?
No show Monday and no show Friday. We're doing Tuesdays Xbox Factor podcast,
Okay.
Wednesdays Primetime Gaming, and Thursday is the end of year show. Obviously, I think you're going to be a part of it. Dave and a few others are going to jump in for that. Give us your hot takes and short takes, if you will, of what stood out for you in 2022, and ultimately what gets you excited for 2023.
Yeah. So, just check us out between Tuesday and Friday of next week. And thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, brother. Definitely appreciate that. Everborn, sell your brand, brother. Where can people check out the Everborn saga, and where can people reach out to you on social media?
As I say every week, the answer to all those questions is Everborn Saga. You type that in a browser, you will find me. Even go to Amazon, type it in, and you will see some of the books that we create. But go to everbornsaga.com, and we are launching a sale for 2023 that allows you to get the entire collection of Everborn books. That's 6 books that we all put together. It'll include some hardcovers and things like that. $50, which is a significant sale from what it is usually offered for, because we want to get everyone up to date for the books that we are releasing for 2023. So look out for that. I'll tweet about it when it goes live, and big things happening for 2023. Again, Everborn Saga everywhere. That's Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, you name it.
Nice. Well, congratulations to all of the winners that we had for last Friday's big $1,000 giveaway. There are 2 members that we have not gotten to. Pixelbit G, where are you, my brother? DM me so I can get you your $100. And also Pragmatic Eagle. He's always here, but he's been gone. So if you know where he is, tell him to reach out to Mr. Boomstick, Mr. and Mrs. Boomstick, so we can give out the last 2 $100 prizes. And of course, Mrs. Boom and I will close out the show with a very Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays to all. Please be safe. Enjoy your time with friends and family, because you just never know how short that time is going to be. And of course, we will see you next week on the multitude of live gaming shows that we're going to do. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor podcast.